With that, how many meals did you have to consume a day?
It was definitely eating like 5 full meals a day, and just it was kind of like almost like you don't want to go more than like 3 hours without actually eating something like.
And then how about the welcome to the league with the Cowboys? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean it was challenging because I spent.
Well, I was gonna say, like, looking at you now, like, you look great. You know what I mean? So
I appreciate it.
kudos
Yeah,
on
I'm
that.
like 230. I literally retired in 6 months. I lost like 80 pounds.
Welcome to the 27th episode of Live with Ty, the talk show where sports and business collapse. For student athletes, created by student athletes. Today we're joined by NFL veteran Adam Redmond, turned CEO of Tully, which is a dating tracking app specifically built for coaches. Super exciting show. I cannot wait to get into it. Exciting stuff always. But before we begin, again, the same stat that still persists, over 80% of you guys that watch the show aren't subscribed. We grow, we get to have cooler guests and tell more stories and inspire more people when you guys hit that subscribe button. So whether you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, I'm gonna ask what you're doing to stop right now. Down below, hit that subscribe and follow button so you can be part of this amazing community and grow with us. Because again, I like to think we're pretty cool, and the people that we have on this show and tell their stories are even cooler. Lots of new exciting things coming up this way with Live with Ty. So when you're subscribed to the channel, you get to be a part of all the inside little details of what we have planned at this amazing production. I can't wait for this episode with our first NFL guest. I mean, it is insane what you're able to do in this world of content creation, and I want you to be a part of that journey every single step of the way. So we're gonna get right into it when Adam joins up. Can't wait.
Live with Ty starts now.
And the show begins. Our guest, the NFL vet, is in the building. Get hyped, boys. It's gonna be a good one. Hello, Adam. How are you, my man?
How's it going?
Dude, you know the funny thing? I was watching the other podcast that you were on, and it's like a picture frame of like exactly what to expect, and you hit it again. So congratulations on that. Thank you so much. Something that I always try and do, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm trying to grow this little stubble here. I've been trying to do that for the probably past, let's say, 2 years now. Still have not had any success. What are the secrets to kind of growing some good facial hair? Because the younger audience that's going to be watching, and we need all the advice we can get.
You're asking the wrong guy. So I took about 28 years to get anything on my face and let it ride. And now this is kind of, my co-founder said, an avant-garde beard at best. So I'm hanging in there, but I don't know. I wasn't blessed with great facial hair, so I'm kind of desperate myself.
Well, that's good that we could relate on that, and then when we find a product that just works besides an expensive trip to Turkey, no one wants to do that, then we'll figure it out. Usually, before we get into this, we start the show off like the super upbeat, but we have to kind of address the elephant in the room, where what's going on in Texas. I know you're not near the tragedy, but can you kind of give a couple words? How has that impacted the floods and just a terrible disaster that so many people have been affected by? What's it been like being in that same state?
Yeah, I mean, Texas is obviously a huge state, but you kind of feel connected to what's happening. I mean, we've obviously had more rain the last couple months than any summer I've been here, and it's different. I grew up in Ohio, and so I feel like the weather's you kind of know what to expect in the Midwest. If it's gonna be a thunderstorm, it's a thunderstorm. But here things pop up so quick, whether it's tornadoes. I mean, the flooding is it's not something you anticipate. And I know obviously people down there have been affected and are still being affected by it. It's just the tragedy and the danger of it all is how quickly it pops up. And so, a camp and people kind of enjoying going about their lives, and things change so quickly. It's kind of jarring to everybody in the state. We've had some flooding up around no parts of Dallas, but nothing on that level. So just thoughts and prayers are down with everybody. And I know even up here there's people heading down. People flying flights down, trying to help, bring resources. So hopefully we can kind of continue to support everyone down there.
Yeah, of course, guys. Whoever's listening out there, again, thoughts and prayers to everybody that's in that Texas area. Something that's super keen and specific on Texas is that whenever tragedy hits, everybody corrals together and bounces back. What do you think that's going to look like for this disaster in particular?
I mean, I think it's already happening. It's already, it's kind of taken, it's really taken the whole country, but obviously everyone here in the state by storm, and, providing resources, first responders, and people have kind of head down. But, it's one of those dangerous environments, and I know a lot of people want to help. So I just think the state pulling together, there's obviously a lot of pride in Texas, and
Yeah, Texas
a lot
pride,
of pride
baby.
for their own and people taking care of each other. So it's nothing new, and I think nobody's surprised by the response, and it'll surely continue.
We'd love to hear that. So with most guests that we have on the show, when they're getting into their athletic journey, they can kind of have a clear picture of where they see themselves going. But in that other episode I was watching, college football for a long time wasn't even on the map for you, but you landed up at a pretty good school. Tell me about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, sports was my life growing up. I'm the youngest of three kids. Everyone played sports, big extended family. That was just normal. Played every sport growing up, every season. Kind of your schedule of the year was dictated by what sport you were in: basketball, football, baseball. And so just always grew up playing. Knew I wanted to play in high school. Hoped to have the opportunity to play. Followed my brother's footsteps. The football team is a couple years older than me. And as I progressed through high school, I was a bigger kid. I wasn't off the charts, and I'd be probably considered undersized, at least weight wise nowadays for Division I prospects. But I played well enough in Ohio to get some attention. I had a few small MAC Division I offers, but I don't know. There was always kind of that question mark of if I could play in maybe a Power 5, Power 4 program, and I was always focused on school. I was a good student. The school I went to, Walsh Jesuit, kind of academics, athletics, whatever it is, it all blended together. And
Gotcha.
So most of the people there were the students, very well rounded. It's not jocks and nerds or anything like that. It was the smartest kids and the athletes, and everybody was kind of all together. And so academics was always important to me. I did well, I had good grades, and so I had some opportunities outside of maybe the traditional route with looking at Ivy League schools. But I never planned to go to an Ivy League school. I never thought about Harvard until they reached out my junior year, and I thought, this seems intriguing. I was sort of disillusioned with some of the more athletic focused programs in D1 when I didn't really love the idea of having to go to study tables every day and kind of have your life run by the sport you're in. It was sort of oh, come here and we'll give you tutors. We'll let you focus on athletics. I kind of liked the idea of, you're a student and truly a student athlete, and you take care of your business across the river. And then when you come over here, you're all about athletics, but we all kind of know it really is truly 50-50 in the Ivy League. So that was really appealing to me at Harvard. And once I got on campus and took my visit with a kid who went to a school 30 minutes from me, was just like me. I think my only understanding of Harvard before that was from Legally Blonde and the movies.
Great movie though, great movie.
Great movie. But it kind of was okay, this could absolutely be home. These are people just like me, and so totally removed all those preconceived notions in that way. So I always say I kind of backed into Harvard because it was something that I was really fortunate to have that opportunity, and luckily had the right people and my parents and coaches push me in that direction to take that look and give it a chance.
And now and that's where you ended up going. So the theme of this episode that we're going to be focusing on is transition. So a lot of people that are watching this podcast, it's those transition moments, right? So you're having big stages in life. Not everybody really knows how to navigate them the best. And looking at your journey, you've done well at every single transition. So hats off to you for that personally. So walk me through your stepping foot on that Harvard campus, but not just those first days, but that first year. I remember for me, coming into campus, let's say at BU freshman year, being on the soccer team, that was an extremely hard transition. And there weren't enough conversations like this I could listen to guide me through those moments. So what was that transition moment like where you were a baller in high school, but now you're at a D1 level at a university? That's different.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just looking at it through the sports lens, it is completely night and day. I think for every transition, you sort of have to be okay and have enough humility to sort of just restart. And that's the hardest part. I mean, so many athletes, I feel like if whether you're playing Division I or D3, it's when you get to college after high school, you kind of you want to continue. By senior year of high school, you're kind of you're the man, or you're running the team, you're the captain, you've paid your dues, and now you get to enjoy it. You're playing every week, and so that transition is completely going back to square one. And it's like you got to just completely humble yourself. And it's tough. I mean, that was a really tough freshman year. Obviously, athletically, it's a huge jump, and all of a sudden everything speeds up, and you're back to the bottom rung. And you have to, most of all, you have to like prove yourself. You got to prove yourself, earn trust of the coaches, your teammates, and that just takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and it can be overwhelming for sure. It definitely was for me. And then from the academic side, being intimidated just by the school I was at, but also just the complete shift culturally, the diversity I was around. Like I remember walking on campus the first day, and I heard five languages walking from my dorm to the athletics. And I grew up outside of Cleveland, and like that I wasn't used to that, and that was just a totally different world. Like just navigating like the streets, and if I was getting on the train, like so much was happening, and so. Meeting all these new people and with their own stories, it is overwhelming. You kind of have to like take just a full step back, and it was a total transition, top to bottom. But with anything, just like when you go to high school, it felt the same way. It's you kind of just pay your due. You kind of go in with an open mind, willing to learn, willing to understand that okay, I'm going to have to get better. I'm going to have to improve. I'm going to have to have these painful moments to get to the next stage. And then just like high school, you whittle, the next year you've got a little bit more confidence, you feel good about it, and then you kind of build up, and then eventually you're at that level. So it's just a process that I think every transition has been that way. It was the same with the NFL. It was the same, literally every new team I was on in the NFL was the same. You got to reinvent yourself. You got to prove, get the trust of the coaches again, your teammates, and that can be exhausting, but that's just the process. There's no way to shortcut it. So if you can embrace that and be on board with it, it'll obviously pay off.
When you were, during your time when you were playing at Harvard, you said that there was a culture shift where Harvard, it's not a Power 5 program, right? But you guys, when you were kind of coming into the program, you guys had started placing people in the NFL. So when you're having that massive culture shift where almost seems like the unattainable is kind of getting closer, how did you handle that? And how did you, I guess, start to have your sights on, okay, I can do this post-graduation?
Yeah, I mean it's your product of your environment, right? And it's all the sayings you can come up with of you are who your friends are, or your product of your environment, or you kind of your ceiling is dictated by those. Like it all comes into play. And so when you know somebody and you see them and you practice with them, you're a teammate, and you go see them achieve what to that point was impossible, it just becomes kind of normalized. And now all of that fear or anxiety around it kind of disappears. So when I was, at Harvard, got there in 2011, and we kind of had this nice run, starting with a few like tight end, fullback guys, some guys who are still playing. Who,
all that crazy.
They were, got drafted, got recruited. We started seeing scouts at practices. Like that became normal. So when I was a young player, and you're obviously, like I said, this process we're in. I was trying to go from a scout team player to contributing to being a starter. You can't skip those steps, but it just becomes normal. And you see those guys do it, and it just kind of breaks down those barriers in your mind. And so that was 100% the reality. And then it kind of all culminated my senior year where we'd had every year there'd been a couple guys make it out, at least whether drafted or signed. And then my year we had like 3 or 4 legitimate,
wow, prospects,
whether to be drafted.
That's crazy.
A couple guys at the combine. So it kind of became like, again, very normal. I had guys to train with. And that's what I've realized in my life is I do a lot better, like kind of with partners, with peers.
A team, yeah.
Typical athlete. Team, yeah. Exactly. So I really feed off of others around me, and it motivates me. And so I was one of 3 offensive linemen that were trying to go in the draft. One of us got drafted. The other 2 of us signed, undrafted contracts. We had a tight end. So we had a great group training for pro day. Like it just became normal. And again, if you would have asked myself at 18 if that was possible, I guess like the rational answer was like, sure, I guess it's possible, but I've never seen anyone do it before. But at that point, it's like I kind of know what the formula is. I understand what it's going to take. I know what the steps are, and so it just became possible. And then it was just about, again, that next transition, resetting, humbling yourself, and going into
just
it.
going at it again.
To learn.
So for a lot of people that are watching, they actually don't know those steps. So if you can you walk me through the details of, okay, you just had a really good season, right? And you want to have a good shot at the NFL. What were those actual steps that you had to take in making yourself the best case to get a shot at the league?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like this has become more of a story maybe in the last few years when people talk about like specialization in sports, especially youth sports, where
Yeah.
athletes. Football is unique because football is still a very institutionalized sport, meaning like even for soccer, from your experience, like we don't play for club teams. There's nothing outside of school. Like you go to your school, you play for your high school, and then you get recruited. Like everything kind of comes to you. You're sort of like put on a conveyor belt at 15, and like as long as you stay healthy and keep playing well, you might get more opportunities. Like you get recruiting letters, you take visits, you go to a college, and now and I know NAL is blowing everything up, and it's sort of changed. But like a lot of other sports now with what we do with Tully, I'm learning about baseball. Do you go to showcases? Do you do XYZ? What clubs are you going to play for? And so, but for me, it was just about like kind of handling each year and having trying to see those opportunities. Like I got to start. I kind of split time as a sophomore. Like started games off and on, but I was sort of rotating in and out. And then next phase, like what do you become a full-time starter? Okay, become a full-time starter my junior year, and then senior year it was like now I need you got to go be all conference. Like you got to take that next. So it's just continue to make those jumps. And I think that's maybe what people get a little lost in sometimes is, whether they're scouts or, pro teams, whatever, they want to see that improvement. They want to know where your ceiling is. And so even if you're a guy who comes in as a freshman and you're an All-American, like if that's the peak and then you drop off, like that's not going to really help you. Right. So it's about positioning yourself and learning and improving. And so that was for me. I was a very gradual, like on a late bloomer, like got to play, became a starter, became an All-Ivy player. And then obviously, that's your playing career. And then at least can only speak for the NFL draft process. There's obviously kind of from the end of your season as a senior, it's now all attention into like pro day or combine and, preparing yourself. It's kind of a 3-month, like in a vacuum 3 months where you're just training for all those combine events and yeah.
Would that mean, so are you hitting up agents? Are you guys, let's say, talking to teams? Like what's that process like? And then also, how on earth does school follow into it? Because I'll give you a little bit of context where I'm coming from. So of course you see, all these YouTube series or these prime, it seems like, for a lot of power, let's say I'm a running back at Georgia, right? The second my season ends in that December period, school doesn't no longer become the thing. All attention's on the league. They're flying with these private trainers, all this type of thing. So, but something that's special about your journey is that you were really intentional about being well-rounded in student athlete journey, right? Yeah. So how does academics fall into that nitty gritty? And I still want to know the details of like, did you have to use an agent? What was training like from the pro day? How did you find out, oh, you're going to be like, these teams are going to be looking at you and all that stuff? They're really nitty gritty.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of in pieces. I mean, the agent piece, obviously 100%. So back then, again, it's changed, but, back then, once the day was over or, your season was over, you had a chance to sign with an agent. I was in a kind of a weird position. Like I sort of recruited my own agent. Like I was looking for somebody to represent me. I was not, if you're a top 4 round draft pick, like all this stuff is presented to you, right? Like, yeah, you know how it is. But for the vast majority of people, everyone else who's going to make up the teams and rosters, this is a process that, I was able to. One of my teammates did an internship with an sports agency. It was my agent was a guy named Nate Richmond. At the time, was at a agency called K Sports, and he started his own, broke it off to it's called 3XL now. But Nate was a lunch meeting that I took like January my senior year, and coordinated by my buddy who interned for him. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like a mutual conversation. It wasn't like, hey, Adam, here's $10 million and I want to represent you. Like that was not the deal. It was, let's talk. Let's see what I'm thinking. He kind of put some feelers out maybe to learn a little more about me. But it was definitely a mutual relationship, and he definitely helped, support some of the process through Pro Day. But I was still in school. I knew I was going to graduate. I was not going to take a semester off because I was a bubble guy. I wasn't certain to get drafted. I didn't get invited to the combine. So I think I said, before to you, like I was still doing job interviews my senior year. I was still putting in applications because you don't know. Like,
you don't.
You don't know what's going to happen. I could have went through whatever, April 26th and go through the draft and nobody calls. And now I still got to graduate in a month and I better, having a plan B. So, but no, Nate was huge on that. And then that's really the communication. So Nate, the agent's job is there, he's kind of going out there, he's pounding the pavement, they're really the agent's role is they have the connections to the team. They're the ones who they know scouts in organizations. They're calling, they're asking questions about Adam Redmond from Harvard. Have you looked at this guy? What's your grade on him? Whatever information they can kind of pull through those conversations, trying to, both build momentum, but also kind of just, take a lay of the land of where you're at and what people want to see. So he was able to tell me ahead of my pro day, well, look, like you're a big guy, but people question your athleticism. So, here's the athleticism piece of your combine and pro day. Like you want to perform well. Like this is important. So it really became for me like that next phase was pro day, and I had to show up. Number one, I had to show up over 300 pounds as an offensive lineman because I was undersized. Like I said, I was 270, 280. I played at in college. That's not an NFL lineman.
Yeah.
People questioned if I could be that big and move well enough. So I had to be like 303 for my pro day, which I was. I ran on the scale of things, like not great times, but they were good for me, and they put me into like the range people wanted to see me. So it was kind of a mission accomplished for me at pro day, where I kind of at least checked some boxes for people if they had question marks. But all that's facilitated kind of by Nate while I'm just training, and he's kind of the back and forth, through that process for sure.
So
and then
it sounds like for everyone's watching, if you're kind of on that bubble, get an agent and still apply for jobs. You never know.
Yeah, at least in football. I mean, that is they are truly the community, and that's for your whole career. Like I think I always kind of joke if you're a top pick first 3 rounds, like you really don't need an agent. Like they don't really. Maybe when they go negotiate your second contract, but as far as the draft for football, everything's slotted, things fall into place. But when you're kind of a bubble guy like me, it's just like anything else. Like you need somebody who's out there with direct lines of conversation. Like you're selling a product. You're selling this vision of Adam Redmond. Like, hey, have you looked at this guy? Have you taken a second? And so that's what Nate's job was. And he, built enough interest. And then that was where he could, there was a few teams who were interested or, who came to the pro day. And that's kind of the job. They're out there, really canvassing. It's kind of like, an election campaign, trying to get votes, trying to get support. And so you're
doing the podcast now. So, you're doing all the right stuff, just like candidates, When you had the opportunity to put the pen to paper and actually sign, you're an NFL player, which is amazing. What's that feeling like? Where I don't even know if that was a dream of yours, but it happened, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think probably looking back on it, I'm obviously very proud of it, and it was a great career. But at the time, I don't know. I mean, I was just so in like. Just go mode, and you just don't feel like it, you kind of know nothing's guaranteed. I actually my draft story is not the best. It's like I was pretty sure I wasn't going to get drafted, so I was hoping for an undrafted. I was hoping people would call me. So the plan was, the last day on Sunday or whatever it was, rounds 4 through 7. That's when again Nate would be calling teams, kind of like round 6, round 7 as the draft's about to finish up. They're starting to look on to the undrafted guys. That's like the next phase. That's my Super Bowl. Like that's when I want to be.
Time to shine, baby.
And so for those who don't know, each team can allocate a signing bonus. They kind of have a chunk of money that they can spend on undrafted guys. So some really highly touted guys maybe didn't get drafted for whatever reason. There'll be multiple teams kind of offering them a few $100,000 as like a undrafted signing bonus. At least again, this is how it was in 2016. It's changed, but. So I was kind of waiting for feedback from Nate. He had a little bit, like a couple teams were sort of had called. A team called me during the draft and was like, hey, we're just checking in on you. Like, the draft's rounding up. We're interested in you for this. So it's just kind of but everyone's kind of looking at each other to see what happens. And so the draft ended. Nate kind of called me a few days after. He's like, the Colts want to sign you. And like, that's great. Awesome. They're going to sign you and they're going to give you a $2,000 signing bonus. It's like, okay, great. Like, I think back then teams got like 150 total and they could spend it on however they wanted. They could give 150 to one guy or they could break it up. And so like 2,000 was not a lot, but it was like something. And I was like, okay, great. And then hugged my family. I was at home in Ohio, like excited. And then like literally 3 minutes later, he called back and there's like, well, they called back and they still want you, but there's no signing bonus. And I was like, okay, like again, like what? There's no other options, right? There's no bidding war. So I'm like, what are you going to say? Okay, great. And that's, taught me about leverage right there. When you don't have any leverage, you're kind of taking what comes. And so it was sort of right off the bat, like a little bit of a wake up call of like, wow, this is, I'm signing a contract, but like, there's nothing. They could call me tomorrow and say like,
Just be like,
hey,
no.
thanks anyways, right? There's no guarantees. It doesn't mean I'm going to put a jersey on Sunday, right? So
Yeah.
that was really evident to me. So, the act of signing was definitely an accomplishment. I was very excited about it. I was really excited to get to Indianapolis and start my career. But I always was like super heightened awareness, like almost paranoid, like anytime something like that happened. Because I was like, I just knew like around the corner, like something is coming.
Yeah, something. I get you.
So
I get you.
I really didn't, honestly, I probably didn't do a good job of enjoying it in the moment and appreciating for what it was. I sort of was a little skeptical, but no, as far as an accomplishment, truly, yeah, that was what I was.
It's a massive accomplishment. I can understand the skepticism. Like, there's your dream, but there's so much like pressure around it. When you do know, like, again, you didn't have any leverage, so you're at the mercy of the Colts and what they want to do with you. But you still ended up going to Indiana, and that's marked another significant transition in your life. What was that process like? Walking into the training room, being at training camps, and now you're with people that you're seeing on TV for day in, day out, and those are your teammates.
Yeah, no, it was kind of a whirlwind for sure. I mean, just a crazy experience, but kind of exactly what I said. It was back to square one. I mean, even at a heightened level, you're walking in, nobody knows your name, especially now. Like, at least, okay, Harvard, you were a recruited athlete.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of a pep in your step, like maybe some plans. Like, this is 100%. Like, what's your name? Who are you? Like, again, you're probably going to be gone in 3 weeks. So, like, do we even learn your name? That's the mindset. There's so much turnover in the NFL, like day to day, week to week. It just happened so quick. And so everyone in Indy was awesome. I mean, their staff, like, it felt like home kind of from day one. We had a really good rookie class. It was a big offensive lineman class. They actually drafted like 5 O-linemen. I think 4 or 5 guys got drafted. And then it was me. So again, on paper, not the best landing spot for an undrafted guy. Like, why would you go follow drafted guys? But again, without leverage, I was there. But those turned out to be like great friends, lifelong guys I'm still close with. But it was just, you just got to go back to square one. Like, you know nothing. You have everything you've learned is kind of obsolete, and now you're playing against grown men, people with families, kids, like at practice, and I just kind of had to step back, and again, being a sponge and being humble. So it's kind of always that balance of like having confidence that you can do it, but also realizing like nothing and you have to learn, you have to embrace. Yeah. So it was 100% like a really difficult transition, physically and even mentally, just learning the playbook and kind of getting the calls down and everything. But what I think I had on my side was just that willingness to compete and work and improve. One of my O-line coach was Joe Philbin, who actually ended up coaching me again. He was a former head coach. He coached me in Dallas as well, and it's kind of become a friend now after football. But basically, kind of one of his intro day things for rookies was like, don't make the same mistake twice. And that was like my guiding light, my whole career. It's like, it's okay. It's great to make mistakes. But you can kind of see it. If you're making mistakes, the same mistake over and over again, that just instantly, like, you're out. Like, you're not coachable. You're not seeing that progress. So I made every mistake, but I felt like for the most part, I only made it once. And then if I made another mistake, well, it was like a new, it was a next level mistake, right?
Variation. That's smart.
Yeah. So it was a process like that of just make the mistake, learn from it, pick it up. So again, it can emotionally, mentally, it's tough because it's hard to just have that much painful learning and make mistakes. And, but it's kind of the way you progress. Otherwise, coming from where I was, literally starting at ground zero.
Yeah.
It was the only way I could go about it. And then at the end of my first training camp, when the organization looked at the tape, they're like, this guy has just gotten better from day one. Right. And that's probably one of the best, compliments you can hope for.
Yeah,
that's the best thing on your resume is you just got better every single day. Doesn't matter where you started. And now they get excited about, well, maybe there's maybe this keeps going and he can, be a contributor and a player. And so that was really the process from
definitely a process. Something that a lot of people just have a vested interest, which is so specific about O-linemen. You said it yourself that even to make yourself eligible for the draft, you had to 303 pounds. So you guys are like these hulking human beings. Something I've always been super curious about is like, even from a dieting perspective, it's almost like, how does that work? Because I was doing some research. You guys have to consume twice the amount that's normal just to kind of compete. How on earth do you do that? Is there coaches being like, did you eat 6 times today? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean there's two versions of O-lineman.
Tell me.
There's the guys like me who were the weight gain guys. So
Okay.
like we're naturally smaller and you have to just eat and eat and eat to keep your weight up. Like that's just the normal reality. And then the opposite is you're naturally 400 pounds and you have to like actually there are actually guys people like that in the
That's
world, which is hard to
crazy.
believe, but they have to really work to keep their weight down. And so I
How many?
think
I was
my
gonna say,
version is better, but yeah.
how many with that? How many meals did you have to consume a day?
I mean, it was definitely eating like five full meals a day, and just it was kind of like almost like you don't want to go more than like 3 hours without actually eating something like of substance.
Hmm.
Which to the bane of my wife, and then my we met in high school. We've been together. We've been married 6 years now, but like she was with me through this whole process, and I think that's her favorite thing about retirement is like we don't have to plan days around my meals, and it's like, well, where am I going to eat lunch? Where am I going to, are we packing lunch? And so, yeah, it's just, well, it in college, it was, yeah, coaches kind of getting on you. We'd weigh in every week and,
Hmm.
you're crushing chocolate milks every chance you get and
Yeah.
taking like food back. And it's kind of fun in college because you just eat like, an animal. But NFL, it's like, again, well, you can lose weight. Nobody's going to say anything. But in a couple weeks, you're going to have a knock on your door and you'll probably get released if you start, dropping down. So, yeah, it just becomes the way of life and normal. And that was kind of my existence. It was definitely not a lot of fun and pretty fatiguing at the end, but yeah, it was fun.
Well, I was gonna say, like, looking at you now, like, you look great. You know what I mean? So,
I appreciate it. Yeah,
kudos on
I'm
that.
like 230. I literally retired in 6 months. I lost like 80 pounds. My body just kind of receded back to
Yeah.
this is what I was supposed to do. Again, much rather have that problem than the opposite
Hmm.
because people have to struggle with weight and it's not fun. So I was very lucky to just kind of fold back into this 230, but this is my natural weight. Now
Yeah.
now it hits me of like, wow, I was really maxing
Hmm.
maxing out my system there for a while.
When you so something I also want to ask is two things, right? So there's always this big speculation around rookie dinners, and since your process was a little bit unique, is that something that happened? And also, what was your welcome to the league moment with the Dallas Cowboys? That's what I'm specifically, because again, it seemed like that's when you started to get, you appeared in a lot of the games, and again, you're under the lights. What were kind of some of those moments like? But let's go with the
Yeah.
first question first, if that applies.
So yeah, I mean the rookie dinner is a traditional. I mean, kind of every team has some version of it. I'm honestly trying to. So it's broken up by position group. Or you do like a whole. So in Dallas, they did like a whole team party basically. So it was
Okay.
like a nice restaurant. It's like during the bye week, where like everyone would come to the restaurant, and then they just would like break it up in like kind of tiers for the rookies. Like the rookies just pay for it. That's it.
Okay, that's not too
And
bad.
then but when I was in Indy, it was like by position. Fortunately, I was again number five of. We had a first round offensive lineman as well,
Okay.
and like there was a lot more attention than me. I don't think I even had to like pay that much, but I think we like it just becomes. It's all like it used to be before my time. There
Hmm.
was a lot more of like a hazing element to it, where guys would like
Gotcha.
run up the bill and make it. But this was kind of just like fun. It was an excuse to have a fun event. So I think like our bye week in Indy, we actually like rented like a bus. We drove to Cincinnati, like went to a really nice dinner, went to the casino in Cincinnati,
Wow.
and that was just
Virgin.
the bill was split among rookies, and again I didn't pay that much, so it was a super fun night, memorable. But that's usually how it goes. It's more in fun, but yeah, it's the most expensive meal or dinner that like you have to like try to run up the bill, and that's what guys do.
Yeah, of
So
course, of course.
um,
And then how about the welcome to the league with the Cowboys? What was that like?
yeah, I mean it was uh, it was challenging because I spent probably a year and a half, 2 years with Indy. I got released, went to actually Buffalo for
Hmm.
the finish of the 2017 year, and was coming from that system. I got released at the end of training camp and got signed literally the next day. Got claimed by Dallas, so I'm on a plane, and like I think one of like the non-playing side of it was like I had basically like 4 days to like learn the offense. I was going to be like the immediate backup center. Travis
Oh
Frederick was
wow.
out, the starter. So I was like gonna be in there. And so I was like, I need to know this as quickly as possible. And so to go from like having 2 years to learn a system, or like college you have 4, it's like no, you have 4 days, like, and potentially could be playing. That was like, holy crap! Like nobody cared either. It was like, you better do this. Like this is your job. This is why you're here. So that was a test. From a physical standpoint, I think one of the first games I had while I was playing in Dallas was we played Sunday night in Philly, which was always the best. Playing in Philadelphia was the best. It was such a cool environment, like old school, like playing at AT&T in Arlington is really cool. It's exciting, but I'm from Ohio, like being outside, like real grass, under the lights, cold weather, like that's exciting for me. That kind of like got me going. And also like everybody there hates us. Everybody's screaming at you. And so I was in my backup role. Our guard went down in the second quarter, so I had to go in, but I was up against a guy named Fletcher Cox, who was perennial Pro Bowler, possibly Hall of Famer, but just like the biggest person you've ever seen. So I think it was just like nobody's coming, like getting to the huddle and like looking around, and everybody's like, there's nobody back, there's no help coming. So like you kind of have to make your mind up that this is gonna be it. And so we got in, we were on like a silent count, so loud the quarterback can't do like a verbal cadence. You have to do all signals. And so the way a lot of teams do, if you ever see on like Sunday watching the game, when like the guard stands up, looks at the quarterback, and they tap the center, and that's what tells the center to snap it. So I was doing the tap, which is the worst job in the world, because you literally have to like turn around, look at the quarterback, and then just like flip around and like go play. Yeah, you don't know where the guy's going to be. But I was around there tapping, and we ran it when the clock is running down, the play clock. The quarterback starts clapping, and it's like, hurry up, we got to like snap as soon as you hear it. Well, the center heard that, snapped the ball while my back was still turned. No. With like Fletcher Cox across, and so it was like complete desperation, like whip around and just took a bull rush in the face, and luckily nothing happened. I think we like completed a pass, but that was like, I think that knocked all the anxiety out of me, and I actually played fairly well for a few quarters and kind of got into the rhythm of the game. But it was like like the worst case scenario happening on Sunday Night Football, like in that environment. So that was a hostile environment too for that to happen. Yeah, hostile. Yeah, but that was so fun. We won that game, and just road wins in the NFL are awesome because it's just the team. Everyone's so excited. It's a fun plane ride back. So
and especially really cool. It's Dallas too, and that leads me to my second question, where there's this aura around Dallas, America's team, and you were part of that organization. So I want to hear what's your opinion on why is it. What's playing for Jerry Jones' team so special to the country every single year? They haven't won that many titles. They had that one crazy run in the 90s, but every single year it's like that's America's team, and it's different. So you were on the inside track of that. Yep. What was that like?
I mean, well, just generally, like Jerry's done the best job of kind of commercializing the NFL. He was in the forefront of that, of like commercializing the league and driving viewership, and so. I mean, everything that they do in Dallas is geared towards the fans and towards engagement with the fans. And so, people have talked about this now the last couple of years, but it's like a lot of facilities, when you like pull up to the facility anywhere else, like you might not even know where they are. Like, I don't know if you know where the facility is. If you go up you got to get up to Foxborough and like get to that, facility. Yeah. It's tough, right?
Yeah. It's a trek.
Like they'll hide them. When I was in Baltimore, we're like kind of in the woods. Like it's kind of hidden. Like it's off the beaten path because they don't want a lot of people around. You got to go in, scan through security just to get in the parking lot, and like multiple. It's like completely locked down. Dallas is not like that. You're walking to meetings as a player, and there's tours coming through the facility. They have a 12,000 seat indoor practice facility that we practice in, but every Friday night there's high school football games, there's concerts. I think they have like the CMAs or something. There's like every year, one of the country music awards. So everything they do is just geared towards like engagement, and so that's why they're just front and center all the time, and that's the focus. I think some people would argue that detracts from the football. I don't necessarily. I don't feel like it is. It's not like football gets pushed out, but the organization does such a good job of positioning the Dallas Cowboys at the forefront of everything. Everything that's happening in Dallas, everything in the area, like they just own that role. And so that's why they get, 8 primetime games a year. And
Yeah,
growing up
man.
in Ohio, like if you're watch the Browns at 1 o'clock, and then those other markets, you're going to watch the primetime game, and you end up watching the Chiefs or the Cowboys. You kind of become the narrative. And so, but I mean, just it's such an awesome organization. The people there, so many people have been there for 30, 40 years, and it kind of felt like a family from the jump. But you're kind of a little bit of in the fishbowl, for other people to kind of look in, and there's a lot of access, which
Yeah.
I thought was great. I always enjoyed it. It made it more exciting, and never they do a good job of balancing it out.
So when so you're having your time at the NFL, right? And you're starting to, I guess, look at other options. Something that I'm curious, because you're here because now you're the CEO of this company, right? Tully, and what you guys are doing is amazing. When you're playing, something that you mentioned in the other podcast is that you had some other teammates that were forming businesses and all those type of things. During your playing career, something that's so special about athletes is that you're committed, you're all in, right? When do you start to maybe consider other options of, okay, maybe I might actually want to get into this business? And how are players doing that when also being on a full contract? I struggle to see how that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, from that side of things, I would think in about a week here for players when they go to training camp until after New Year's when the season's over. Yes, like your life shut down. Like that's the only focus. But from there, like you have the whole spring. Like if you don't make the playoffs, you've got 3 months completely off. Like there's nothing happening for those 3 months. Then you have some OTAs in the spring. Like it's so that there's kind of like 5 to 6 months. That's very, very light. There's a lot of time.
Okay.
And then like 6 to 7 months, unless you play in the Super Bowl every year, it's like that's shut down. But so I was always by kind of like year 3 for me. Once I like survived and I felt like, okay, I see a line of sight to a few more years if I want to play, and I've kind of carved out a role. I kind of started getting antsy. Like I just felt like there's more I want to focus on. It was like football's football and it's great, but like offensive lineman, you're just talking about defensive fronts and strategies. And so I was interested in other things. I explored, whether it's podcasts, reading. I just kind of would always pick up hobbies in the off season, trying to learn. I had a few, people and friends who were in different industries. And so I just kind of got interested in exploring others. So the catalyst as far as like entrepreneurship were really 2 people, which again goes back to what I said before: product to your environment. You are who your friends are. But so my college roommate, Mike Mancinelli, we played a line together. He was an electrical engineering major. He went and worked in aerospace and defense, but he was back in business school, kind of around year 5 for me in the NFL. Started his own business. He started like a deep tech drone robotics company at Harvard Business School. Wow. And like he showed me his pitch deck, and he talked about what they were doing to like look to raise money and how they were putting the idea together, and it just like really captivated me for this kind of romantic idea of startups and how you can kind of go from a whiteboard to a real product and trying to sell it in the market. And so that was interesting. But then also at the same time, when I was finishing in Dallas, Travis Frederick, who's perennial All-Pro player, was a mentor for me as a player. He was also into his business. He had started a software company with another friend of his, and he was literally like driving to Thursday night dinners in Ubers as he was like doing work. He was waking up at 5 a.m. to run the books on his company. And so again, he kind of being around guys like that just felt like, okay, there's definitely more I can be doing. Like I'm not just gonna go home and watch TV or watch Netflix. Like it made me want more, and I got to see kind of firsthand them go through those growing pains. Mike ended up becoming my co-founder on Tully when I retired, and that was like his next business. But seeing Travis do it and seeing him manage both, being a full-time starter, I never felt like that. That's kind of a narrative that doesn't exist. I think you do always have time. You always have opportunity. It's just how do you manage your time, and what are you willing to kind of put into it. So,
but something I guess. Even hearing, I guess, Travis's stories, like right now I'm in an entrepreneurship program scaling this business, the platform that you hear on. So when you're a full-time player at an NFL caliber team, starting matches, how do you have time to go to investor meetings, organize seed rounds, organize fundraising, build a team, build a product? Because again, when you're a startup, you are bootstrapping it for a long time. So unless he's immediately outsourcing some of those, I struggle to see how is that even possible where it's like, hey, coach, I can't be at this game. I have a seed round I have to do. Or this investor's calling, and they're really big. How would it be able to do it?
Yeah, I mean, Travis will speak to how exactly he did it. I know there was a lot of people involved, right? He had a co-founder, so he was kind of doing everything he could along the way. But no, it's definitely more of, you can't do both. You can't, specialize in two things at the same time. That's probably the worst way to start a business, is to try to like just phone in, double dip. Like, it, I'm in the same boat, have been for the last 3 years. I could never do what I've done the last 3 years while I was playing. But you can start to, think about that idea and sort of explore those opportunities and sort of educate yourself and start to position yourself to either, hire out a team or have co-founders, have people who handle that day to day. So that's kind of what Travis did. Or, my last season, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I was playing in Baltimore. I knew I'm now 6 years in. That's old. I'm an older guy now. I'm getting more expensive. There's younger guys who are ahead of me. And I was just kind of getting burnt out physically and mentally. And so that season, I started brainstorming ideas with Mike, and it was, phone calls on weeknights. I was reading, I was listening to podcasts. I was just kind of like ideating around what a business might look like what would be those first steps, and sort of educate yourself. And you just try to position yourself so that, for me, it was literally 3 weeks after this season ended and I officially retired to the team. Like, we were sitting at my house in Dallas, like on a whiteboard saying like, okay, what's this business going to be? So I think it's that. I think it's more the positioning. It's kind of exciting yourself and educating yourself around. There's so much to kind of put together and think through. That's what that time is for. Maybe build connections, have dinners, have meetings, use those opportunities. You're obviously not going to do the day-to-day work. You can't have all the meetings you want to have and hit the ground running, but there's so much legwork you can do ahead of time to position yourself for it.
I love what you said, for a lot of athletes, for watching this episode, something that he just said that super resonates is that you can still be all into your sport, but something that you did, Adam, that's a really, really good job, is that he put himself in the position to almost like not be lucky, but put himself in the optimal position so that he can have something that you're working on immediately when your athletic career is done, right? And that's something that a lot of people don't know. So if you're watching this episode, take that advice. It's fine to still be all in on your sport right now, guys. And that's what top athletes do. But listen to podcasts, read books, read articles, so that you kind of can start to hit the ground running for when that next chapter is coming in your life. Just a piece of advice for you guys. So back to you, Adam, something that I personally curious about, because I think what you built in Tully is sick. Was there ever a personal pain point that you're like, this is the idea I'm going to go with? Because most starters have that story. And at least when you're pitching to investors, it seems sell story. So what was the founding story of Tully?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't dramatize it too much that it wasn't a dream or anything like that. But I think everything that we put into Tully, the way we built the platform, is all coming out of like the lived experiences as an athlete. And so kind of the driving force while I was still playing, and really the first year of the business, was discovery, like customer discovery, trying to understand the market. So we were really fortunate that my co-founder had just graduated business school.
Yeah.
And we were like very, academically minded. So we wanted to go into like a problem-led, business, right? We wanted to find a problem, a pain point we could solve. And so, when I left football, it was like, I was really disillusioned by the whole sports tech, like analytics movement. Like, I would there were legitimate moments where I would read about something the Cowboys were doing, like some new technology they had, some AI system, some camera system, and then like I'd never seen it. I'm in the facility every day. I've never seen it. Like, no athlete uses it, no coach uses it. So they would talk about like what's happening in these NFL organizations, happening at the pros, but nobody's actually getting anything out of it. And like so many times I was throughout my career, like on force plates, or I was hooked up to some machine, and nothing ever came of it. Like, players saw it as a nuisance. Coaches couldn't understand what the data was. They didn't really care. So the sports science team would kind of do all the work, but then there was nothing actionable ever came out of it. Like, we'd forget about what it said. 6 months later, you do it again. So it just became like kind of this weird process. So I came away, that when we decided to look at sports tech, it was like, there's got to be something missing. Like, what's the missing piece here? Like, why does most great tech like collect dust on shelves in professional and college organizations? And so what it really came down to was just the practical constraints of sports and team training and the environments that you're in. Even in the pros, like you've got a group of 30 to 40 athletes sometimes, like training together, practicing together. Even if you have 30 or 40 support staff, it's still really hard to like run those systems every day. And that's why, for the Cowboys and most teams, like, oh, you're gonna get a test on a force plate, once a week, maybe. And so it just becomes you're testing in a vacuum. It's really infrequent, and then it becomes like not important. I felt like to have an impact, especially for the typical athlete, whether at the youth level, high school, college, it has to be something that like kind of ingrains to their everyday operation. Like what's something they're doing almost year round, every single day. And that's where the whole strength conditioning, sports performance space became really interesting. Like no matter what sport you play, whether you're in season, out of season, at least this is how it should be. And this is the trend, even at youth level now, you're starting to see it. Like athletes are training their bodies all the time. They're lifting, they're running, they're conditioning, they're doing explosive movements and jumps. Like it's just across the board. So I thought like that's an opportunity for us to design a product that like helps and provides value in that space. But then that guiding light was, okay, that's great. And there's stuff out there, but it's got to be something that's so simple. You're going to use it every day. Right.
Yeah.
And you just brought up the point of how much time do you have? Everybody in the world thinks they're as busy as they can be. Like you're not going to go up to somebody and they're going to say, yeah, you know what? I got an hour every single day that I got free time. So you can't ask somebody to do more of what they're doing. They already maxed out. Whether you think it's efficient or not, they're maxed out. So coaches feel that way, teachers, youth coaches, whatever, administrators, everybody's maxed out. So you got to have a product that's going to make their life easier, that can't have this huge burden to put on them. So that was really the guiding light for Tully. And then we really just refined it over that, talking to coaches, learning more along the way.
So for a lot of student athletes, I think there are a lot of, I guess, skills that translate over of, in that whole startup venture, why they're so drawn to that space. But for a lot of student athletes, let's say they just accepted a job at a corporation or something like that, the startup space can feel very, very scary because since you spend a lot of time being an athlete, you didn't necessarily go over all the nitty gritty of doing a startup. And I was at a networking event, there's this misconception around startups where you can have all the practices and theory on how to build a successful startup, but you don't know until you're in it and you are failing forward every single day. So what are, I guess, some tricks, some tips, or some words of encouragement that you could tell the student athletes listening to this podcast that go into the startup world and try and build something of their own? Because it's scary. It's like jumping off a cliff and trying to build up so you can have something to propel you up. But there's a very real chance and probability that you are going to fall flat on your face. But you do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I think it's such a vast, landscape, entrepreneurship, startup. There's so many things right off the bat, you just have to accept, you're not going to know everything. You're not going to have every answer. You don't have there is no playbook. Somebody's trying to sell you the playbook to follow. It doesn't exist. But
does not.
Kind of two routes. I mean, for me, coming out of sports, I went to a really good school. I played in the NFL for 6 years. I had a really nice resume.
Okay.
But I really had zero skills. I had no business skills, right? I had done nothing in that space. So I was really starting again from ground zero. So humbling yourself to say, I don't have these answers. I don't know everything. Okay, there's options. So obviously you can educate yourself. You can try to get exposure, especially as an athlete. That's great things to be doing while you're in school and have time. But mostly it's you really have to understand, how do I lean on people? How do I leverage other people's experience, their understanding? So for me, that was obviously Mike, my co-founder, number one, out of business school, had worked for a post-Series A startup as well. He brought a lot of understanding. So I could just lean on him of kind of what those steps were, right? But then it's even that. It's advisors. It's meeting other, founders. It's all kind of this, learned experience. And the goal for me has been, how can we compress that learning curve, make it as efficient as possible, right? Because the same thing, I'm going to make the mistakes along the way. That's the only way you can learn. But only don't make the same mistake twice, right? Make it once. Yeah. Fix it and you move on. And that's the whole process we've taken. Don't try to sit there and come up with the perfect answer. Don't come up with a perfect pitch deck. Get it out there, get feedback as quickly as you can, no matter how painful that is, and make the adjustments and get better. You're going to get so much faster and so much better results when you take that mindset and approach. And so ask for help, ask for answers. And so that's really the route we've taken, and we've made every mistake. Like we've got a couple pivots under our belt.
Yeah.
We had preconceived notions. We launched a product and like completely adjusted, but everything you've done has led to the success we're having now, and hopefully, that future growth and success that we want. And so we just tried to leave your ego at the door and just accept that that's going to happen. Just do it really efficiently and try to learn from it and take from it. So
what's some of the most rewarding things about being an entrepreneur with your athletic background? I'm curious about that.
I mean, a lot of things, but the first customer, and when we finally got to a point that, whether we have a software service or whether you're selling a product or whatever it might be, when you finally start to have people like respond, and it basically like finally, it took a while, but they have that reaction that like you thought they would, right? So with our startup, it's like you kind of ideate, you maybe make a pitch deck if you need to get investors, and you're telling a story, right? And it's not real.
Correct.
And it's not real for a long time until finally, like, I think we had maybe our like third or fourth customer where I like called them after they signed up. That's huge. Number one, the best win. Somebody's going to pay you for what you have is massive,
Great
right?
Feeling.
Yeah. But like when you get the feedback, and like, I think we had one, he like basically read like, the value prop back to me. And that was huge. That was like, wow, we did what we thought we could do. We had the reaction we thought we could get. That just is such like a huge shot in the arm, a huge boost, huge proof of concept. So that was massive. And then just from a people standpoint, I mean, now that we're hiring to our team, we're starting to hire more individuals, and you start to build those relationships, and you sort of like, organically create this company. And like that's been awesome. I mean, from a team standpoint, like you put this together, you get to feel like that, and you're giving somebody a job and you're paying them a salary, and you hopefully are giving them great experiences. All this is born out of, again, a whiteboard idea. Like that's super, super rewarding, and something you want more of, and obviously adds pressure, and you take very seriously, but it's exciting.
But it's exciting stuff. Again, it's something beautiful in the whole startup venture, because again, there's so much risk involved, but also when you're able to push past that, it's also so rewarding. Something that I was reading up on you that really, really perplexed me for a while was that you struggled with confidence, right? And, looking at you, you would never think that you ever struggled with that. So in your journey in starting this venture, how has it helped in that confidence that you've been able to kind of cultivate it within yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think I still struggle with confidence. The textbook definition term of confidence. I
feel like you're lying to me, because it doesn't seem that at all.
Yeah, no, I've always kind of had a little bit of a less than mentality, and it's it's, I don't know what it's from, just childhood, but sort of like that skepticism I talked about, right? Like it's, if I had all the confidence in the world, like when I signed that contract, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play 6 years or 10 years, I'll be a Pro Bowl. Like I never felt that. I was probably to a detriment, right? And I've had moments where I've kind of let that skepticism, overtake me, right? And I've probably fell short of what I could have achieved because I was worried about it. But for me, confidence just became, again, another part of the process, and something that what I could control. I couldn't control like how I felt walking into the room, but I could control, the effort I put in ahead of time, the preparation, the work I put in, and everything, you'd call confidence just came from that work. I think that was a real like light bulb click for me, both in college, being in a really tough class and kind of having moments of like, I don't think I can do this, and being able to overcome that. Like that's just kind of something to add to your tool belt, right? And you can carry that with you to say like, well, I've done it before, so I can do it again. I don't know what the route's going to be, and that's how I feel about Tully now. Like I don't know what the next year, 3 years, 5 years are going to look like. I don't have the recipe, but I'm extremely confident in myself, my co-founder, our team being willing, like able, and to have the perseverance to go find the answers and make this thing work. Like that's kind of where the confidence is, and that's all been learned. I mean, through every stage, every transition. I think every time you have to kind of reset and humble yourself. Like when you accomplish that goal, like that just kind of builds that confidence that like I'm willing to do the work. I know that So that's kind of the way I always now view confidence. It's not something that's like innate to me. It
Innate,
doesn't, you don't walk in the room. Like if I walked in a room of new people, like I'm not going to say much. I'm kind of keep to myself,
crazy.
but then it
6'2",
builds, right?
great hair, and just that's crazy. Insane.
Yeah.
NFL veteran, heart like dude.
Get a
Still feel like you're
haircut.
lying to me, but that's a nice story. When I something Another thing that I guess I want to touch upon, before we wrap up here is in startups there's many, I guess, failures that can actually be really, really good for you, right? Was there a failure or was there a moment where you thought it was a fork in the road that actually propelled you forward? Where it was like a failure, but it set you forward in the whole Tully experience.
I mean, it's everything, everything. So like
Everything?
I said, everything you do it's pretty much fail. I think you're almost, if you get it right the first time, again, you're sort of like, wait, skeptical, like, what do we miss? Because this can't be
Okay.
right. So, but no, we had pivots. I mean, we had a major pivot. We built a hardware device, and we actually built a tool. So velocity based training is a really big concept now in strength conditioning and performance. It's basically using a device to measure bar speed or how fast you're moving weights, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's like the quality of the reps, not just the quantity. Like that's the idea. And we kept hearing about it, and we did a lot of work on like, wow, this sounds like the next wave of the future. Coaches are interested in it. It's coming into high schools now. Mike, my co-founder, he can build these devices. That's his skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. We went all in on this idea. We built devices. He designed them. He built the boards for them and everything. And we actually 3D printed them at the local library. We had
Wow.
units out in the
Legit.
market. Yeah, so we just kind of slapped them together, but they were working well, and it was a cool tool. And we kind of had this whole narrative around like how these could be the next phase of kind of data collection for youth athletics. We could make them affordable, everyone could use them. We got them into like 15 schools, and the feedback was kind of overwhelming of like, yeah, guys, this is really cool, but like I have 200 kids, right? And I can give this to 3 kids to maybe use, but it takes more time. Like I'd have to bring them in separately, so like we can't really use this. Like I like the idea, it sounds cool, and that was just a huge wake up call because it was like, okay, just because it's cool on paper, just because it theoretically can help, like does it actually fit into what they're currently doing, right? Are we going to give them a whole nother job? And so, but what came out of that was the next sentence from the customer was, I can't even keep track of my attendance. I can't keep track of the basic weights that kids are using, just to show them progress. And so that was like, well, okay, what if we step back and focus on that problem, not the next phase problem?
Yeah.
And that's literally what Tully became. I mean, Tully was born out of a pivot idea where we
There you have it.
built out a beta for shared Excel sheet, and here's how you can track the actual data you care about. Put it in the clouds, you can share it. We can, analyze it for you, keep it really simple, but then that way you can show all the feedback and engage, and that way you can do it on volume. So that was it. I mean, that was a failure leading to Tully for sure.
Yeah,
And many more to follow.
yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, those of you guys listening, there you have it. Like a failure led to them reshaping their whole company, and now look at the success they're having. That's so awesome. Let's say in 3 to 5 years, what would be your dream scenario for your company, Tully?
I mean, there's a few different. I think we're really excited about where we are of the kind of the proof of concept that we have. Kind of at least with the core business, like really
Okay.
feeling like we're at that product market fit. Like I think we really understand our core users and how they need the platform. I think what I want to now do is take that next step, both from a scale and growth stage. Obviously, go from our first 20,000 athletes to 100,000 athletes and a million and grow.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to continue to expand. I think what we've tapped into is like we're kind of using a tool that's operationally helping these athletic organizations. We're helping coaches. That's the operational side. That's the tool. But that impact, I think we have a really big opportunity still to grow. And I think that's
Okay.
impacting athletes. That's making sports and athletics more equitable, giving athletes who wouldn't have access to these resources. How can we use data for that purpose to make that impact? That's the next phase of Tully that I really want to see. So, whether that's us at the helm or exits, whatever those outcomes might be, that's variable. But I think for us, it's how do we capture kind of this next level of opportunity, which is really more on that athlete parent impact side of
Okay.
things. We're we're scratching the surface. We're seeing it now, but
Mhm.
how do we make that next jump? And that's kind of our next real goal and real challenge. And we're excited about that.
Well, I was gonna say, if you guys continue to have the success you've had pivoting, then you're gonna kill it in that market as well.
Yeah.
So a tradition that we do on this show is that every single guest, I ask them their hot sports take. So I hope you have one for me. And we're gonna start with our last guest and his hot take, and I want to hear your opinion on it, right?
Okay.
So this guest, lovely individual, his hot take was not, but I don't know. You might agree with it, and I might be the crazy one. People call me crazy all the time. He said that for this upcoming NFL season, Pittsburgh Steelers are winning the Super Bowl.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I had a crazy reaction to you, but what are your thoughts on that? I think he's a lovely person, but football brain, fried. It's crazy.
No, I don't think so. I'm not. I wouldn't put any money on that right now. But I'd be wrong. I mean, they're a good organization. I think they're really solid. But I don't. You're not winning a Super Bowl without pretty elite quarterback play, and they have an elite quarterback now. But it doesn't happen overnight. It just doesn't. That camaraderie, that people really don't put enough value on that. Right, the time that you get with receivers and the organization. So. It's not plug and play, especially in the NFL. So it can be challenging for anybody. So no, I think I'd push back on that one a little bit.
Okay, awesome.
For sure.
And now, floor is yours. What's your hot take? Anything sports, anything.
Hot take. I think. How about something in your alley? I think.
Okay.
I think USA at the
Okay.
World Cup in 26. I think they're definitely getting out of group play. I'm gonna put them in a semifinal appearance.
That's insane.
That's a hot take.
That's the hottest of hot takes. And I'll tell you why.
There
The
you go.
reason why it's a crazy hot take is that we just had a tournament called the Gold Cup.
Oh, I saw.
We lost. Like if it's just.
Hey, what we just talked about, Ty? We talked about learning, right? The process, learn from mistakes. That's like textbook, right? The 30 to 30 is already written, right? You lost.
Yeah.
They lost at the Gold Cup, and what did they do? They took that to the next level. They're at home. Don't underestimate the at home, the passion. I think it's going to be
true. But I'll counter that. Something that we also talked about. You had amazing mentors, and what they tell you: don't make the same mistake twice. So you're telling me we've made the same mistake probably 5 times now, and that's going to get us in a semifinal? Well, that's your hot take. I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with that wholeheartedly. Sure. But our next guest might agree. Adam, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, really hope you enjoyed it. You are an inspiration and you inspire so many people. And your journey from college athlete to NFL player to CEO is the exact community that we're trying to bring here with Live with Ty. What we're trying to do is that a lot of student athletes go on to be these times of industry CEOs also, but there's not really a community that you could really, really tap into to have that holistic athlete experience, right? And for a lot of people watching this, they're still in school, they're just graduating, and they're looking at people like you and they're saying, you've had tons of success, but I have no idea how to do it. And what you just described from our episode is a roadmap to that type of success and lessons that you've learned along the way that you're going to keep implementing in your life. So I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I'm going to email you a couple other things that I ask of you, but I hope you enjoyed your time as much as you did. As much as I did. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak for you. But yeah, this marks episode number 27. We're growing. We're only growing. And again, it's individuals like you that can really lead the culture in the sense that providing a roadmap for current student athletes right now. Because again, we go on to do amazing things, but there needs to be more of that sense of community where I can look at conversations and be like, man, I'm going to follow his steps. He told me about that mistake. So in my own startup journey, I don't have to make it. And right now that doesn't exist. So that's what we're trying to build here with Live with Ty. So thank you so much, Adam, for joining me on the show. And have a good one.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's awesome, Ty. Thanks for having me. Awesome mission. I love what you're doing and glad to be a small part of it. So keep up the good work yourself.
All right, we'll do it, man. All right, you take care and you have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Ty.
Ciao. Episode number 27. That is a wrap. You guys heard it yourself. From Adam Redmond, college football player, NFL veteran, and now founder and CEO of a company called Tully, which is amazing in what it's actually doing. Here, what we're building is a roadmap to success for student athletes. If you're watching this, make sure you hit that follow, that like, that subscribe button. And if you're still here by the end of the episode, drop a comment and let me know who you are. You are part of my core community. You keep me going. You keep me inspired, coming back to do this every single day. And what we're building here is a community for sports, for creators, for just innovators and people that want to inspire and bring people together through the power of conversations. Again, I would not be in this position to create this content if it wasn't for you guys. So share this episode with somebody who you think needs to hear it. They could be a football fan, they could be a soccer fan, they could just like the way I talk to people. It could be simply that. But again, this content lives and dies with this audience, which is you guys. I can't thank you guys enough for tuning in for this content. Once again, that was another episode of Live with Ty. If you haven't already, stop what you're doing. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on post notifications, because the next inspiring story that you're gonna hear on Live with Ty, you're not gonna wanna miss it. Take care.